Mr. Speaker, on October the 7th at 5:14 p.m., an alert SMRT train captain, Mr. Chu Ah-heng, reported flooding on the southbound tunnel tracks between Pishan and Braddell MRT stations. At 5:27 p.m., the Braddell station manager reported the same on the northbound tracks. At 5:30 p.m., the SMRT Operations Control Center, OCC, suspended train services on both bounds between Ang Mo Kio and Toa Payoh MRT stations. Although the flooded stretch was only between Pishan and Braddell, services had to be suspended on the longer stretch, up to stations with crossover tracks for the trains to turn around. By 5:38 p.m., SMRT reported that water at the deepest section of the track had risen to almost meet the electrified third rail. The system was designed such that power would have cut off automatically if water levels had risen past the third rail. Nevertheless, as a safety precaution, SMRT cut all traction power to the affected tracks at 5:58 p.m. after all passengers had been safely detrained to the station platforms, so no commuters were left in the tunnels. In an unrelated but concurrent incident, train services were suspended in both directions between Marina South Pier and Newton MRT stations from about 5:50 p.m. when the same train captain who reported the flooding spotted electrical arcing at the track site between Raffles Place and Marina Bay MRT stations. Electrical arcing occurred because accumulated debris caused a short circuit between an electrified base plate and a boat in the ground. The boat has been left in place after some renewal works many years ago in 2003. It should have been removed, but it was done. The short circuit generated sparks and heat, causing the debris to smolder. The debris quickly burnt off and the sparks extinguished before the SCDF arrived. However, the service suspension was only lifted at 9:22 p.m. after SMRT completed the necessary safety checks. Although the electrical arcing incident was resolved and services resumed between Marina South Pier and Newton by 9:22 p.m., it took multiple agencies working through the night to clear the floodwaters between Pishan and Braddell MRT stations. These floodwaters were up to 1 meter deep and covered 100 meters of tracks on both bounds. Hence, train services between Ang Mo Kio and Newton remained suspended until the end of scheduled service that day. Despite assistance from PUB and SCDF, the waters could not be cleared for normal trade service to begin the next morning. The floodwaters were only clear to a safe level at 11:06 a.m. the next day. Train services fully resumed at 1:36 p.m. after various safety and operational tests and checks to the tracks were completed. This flood incident resulted in a cumulative disruption to service of 14.5 hours, 7 hours on Saturday, 7.5 hours on Sunday. During the service disruptions, free public buses and bridging buses were deployed along the affected stretches. Announcements on services and alternative transport options were made in stations, on board trains, on SMRT's and LTA's websites, as well as through mainstream and social media channels. The two incidents were not related. While there was inconvenience caused to commuters, safety is our top priority. The SMRT OCC, the Operations Control Center staff, did the right thing and handled a difficult situation well. Chief Controller, Mr. Tan Kwong Chai, took the decision to detrain the commuters and cut off the traction power to the affected tracks between Pishan and Braddell soon after receiving the first reports of flooding. Train Service Controller Mr. Tan Ming Hui single-handedly managed both incidents at Pishan and Marina South Pier, ensuring that train services north of Ang Mo Kio continue to run, and train services south of Newton will resume as quickly as possible by the same evening. As the flooding incident was much more serious, I will focus on it in my statement. The tunnel flooding incident was preventable. It should not have happened. It was not due to any inadequacy in the design of flood prevention measures. Neither was it due to an extraordinary storm. Even if it was an extraordinary storm, like what Penang experienced a couple of days ago, the system, if well maintained, would be able to manage it too. It was due to poor maintenance and neglect of duties by the specific SMRT maintenance team responsible for the Pishan stormwater sump pump system. MRT tunnels are fully protected against flooding. They should not flood. The primary flood prevention measure is a stormwater sump pit. As the name implies, its purpose is to collect stormwater. The water is then pumped out to external drains, thus preventing it from flowing into and flooding the tunnels. Engineers size the sump pit and pump capacity at each location based on PUB's estimates for potential rainfall, with a huge buffer. Specifically, the Pishan stormwater sump pit has a capacity of over 5,000 cubic meters. 5,000 cubic meters. This is roughly the size of 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. In comparison, the total rainfall, which was cleared from the tunnels, was only about 640 cubic meters. 640, not even 700, not even 1,000, much less than the 5,000 cubic meters capacity. These would have filled 13%, 1/3, of the pit's capacity, even if all the 3 pumps were not working. There is plenty of buffer. A properly maintained stormwater sump pit should be clean, free of sludge, silt, and debris, and, importantly, empty in anticipation of the next storm so that it can do its job. It is also not difficult to check if the stormwater sump pit is filled up. Any maintenance crew looking through the grating at the top of the stormwater sump pit can easily tell whether the pit is full or not. Yet, on the day of the incident, the Pishan stormwater sump pit must have been quite full, even before the rain started. As a result, the rain that evening flowed straight into the tunnels, flooding the stretch between the Pishan and Braddell stations. The anti-flooding system at Pishan has served us well for the last 30 years and is designed with a huge buffer. However, the lack of maintenance, including the failure to check that subsystems were in working condition, has led to this very sad incident. While investigations by LTA are still ongoing, we know now that all 3 pumps in the Pishan stormwater sump pit were functional, as they could be manually activated after the flooding was discovered. Singapore Test Services has also independently verified that each of the 5 float switches controlling the pump system were functional in themselves. Why these float switches failed to function normally on October 7 is a subject of the ongoing LTA investigation. SMRT has completed its own internal investigations. They put up a press statement yesterday. Based on their findings, it appears that the Pishan anti-flooding system had not been maintained for several months. Such systems need to be maintained quarterly, and maintenance records were signed off and submitted for December last year, March, and June this year. 3 occasions. However, these records do not match any corresponding logs for track access and pump activation. No track access approvals were issued for preventive maintenance of the Pishan Potter sump pumps on these 3 dates. Pump logs also showed that the pumps were not activated for these same dates, which were required as part of the maintenance procedures. In other words, the maintenance records may have been falsified. The maintenance team in question comprises a manager, an engineering supervisor, and 4 other crew members. Of these, 3 have been with SMRT for more than 20 years, including 1 who was with SMRT for over 28 years. Of the remaining 3, 1 was with SMRT for a little over a year, the other 2 for 6 and 8 years. The engineering supervisor and 4 other crew members were directly responsible for maintaining pumps and other facilities in 15 stations from Sembawang to Dhoby Ghaut stations, while the manager is responsible for supervising and ensuring that the work was done. These 6 have been suspended and are assisting SMRT's investigation. SMRT is in contact with the National Transport Workers Union, NTWU, and has assured the unions that these suspended officers will be accorded due process. Apart from Pishan, SMRT has also checked the stormwater pump systems at 4 other tunnel portal locations in Red Hill, Kembangan, Lavender, and Changi. SMRT found that 2 out of 8 pumps at Kembangan and 3 out of 4 pumps at Lavender were not in serviceable condition. SMRT is currently conducting investigations into the relevant teams under the Building and Facilities Maintenance Group. So each porter sump is managed by a separate team. So there are altogether 5 porter sump pits, 5 different teams. This group, the Building and Facilities Maintenance Group, was headed by Vice President Ng Teck Poo. SMRT has suspended him, together with 6 other managerial staff, with respect to their discharge of supervisory responsibility. The 6 include Mr. Ng Teck Poo's predecessor, a vice president who oversaw the unit in charge of maintaining the pump systems prior to May 2017, as well as a chief engineer, a deputy director, and 3 managers. Apart from the Building and Facilities Maintenance Group, which makes up 1/10 of the total staff strength of SMRT trains, SMRT has not found any evidence of falsification or willful dereliction of duties in the core railway maintenance and engineering groups who are responsible for the maintenance of trains, signaling and communications, tracks, and trackside equipment and power. Nevertheless, SMRT declared an amnesty period for workers to come forward with information on poor work practices. This amnesty period closed on November 3rd and will be followed by a series of audits by the SMRT's readiness inspection teams. As regulator, LTA will also separately assess SMRT's findings on the extent of dereliction of duties and falsification of records. While investigations by LTA will take a few more weeks to complete, the facts of the October 7 incident are not complicated, and the cause of the incident is clear. My ministry will therefore not be convening a committee of inquiry. Meanwhile, SMRT and LTA have taken a number of immediate steps. First, SMRT has replaced all existing float switches at the Pishan stormwater sump pit. Second, LTA has enhanced the resilience of the anti-flood system by replacing the pumps at Pishan with heavier-duty ones, capable of handling water with more sediments, and install additional parallel float switches. Third, a new radar-based sensor system has been added to independently monitor water levels in the stormwater sump pit. Fourth, the sump pump control panel has been relocated away from the tracks to enable easier manual access to pump operations if needed during operating hours. The removal of accumulated sludge, silt, and debris in the sump pit is also in progress. For the other portal systems, SMRT has replaced or repaired all the non-serviceable pumps. The float switches were also replaced as a precaution. SMRT will take swift and stern action to root out any improper practices and prevent a recurrence of this incident. First, it has reorganized the unit overseeing the maintenance of the flood protection system. SMRT has replaced the Vice President, Mr. Ng Teck Poo, with Mr. Siu Yao Wee, a senior mechanical engineer within SMRT. Mr. Siu is known to be deeply committed and responsible. I expect him to enforce greater discipline and process controls within his group. Mr. Siu will report directly to SMRT's Chief Maintenance Officer. Second, it has increased the frequency of anti-flooding maintenance from quarterly to monthly. Third, is tightening the flood recovery plans and intends to strengthen coordination with SCDF and PUB through regular exercises. Additional emergency equipment such as portable pumps are also being procured to augment emergency response capabilities. Fourth, it has invited a team of experts from the Taipei Metro to do a thorough and independent review of its operations, to flush out any gaps and recommend improvements in the areas of system management, engineering, and maintenance. I happened to have a meeting with a few top metro operators about a week after this incident. And among the experts was this former chairman of Taipei Metro. Taipei Metro has done very well, as I've shared in this house before, in terms of achieving real reliability. They had plenty of problems too in the beginning. This particular gentleman, Professor Chai, turned around the company. I have great respect for him, got to know him very well. I've already met him 4 times in the last 2 years that I'm in MOT. So at the meeting last week, I asked him for help. He said, sure, because he remembered many years ago, he came here for help when we were still running the system quite well. So he said, 饮水思源. He was happy to help, and he immediately formed, although he's former chairman, he still has huge influence within Taipei Metro, assemble a team of experts, and they are coming in next month. I'll be meeting them. Last but not least, to develop and cultivate a stronger culture of accountability, ownership, and open reporting across the whole organization. SMRT is strengthening internal processes and staff support. This includes staff rotations and renewal, delayering of reporting chains for tighter management oversight, enhancing the supervision of night works, strengthening training and coaching of supervisors, and aligning the bonuses and incentives of senior supervisors to the performance of their teams and audit results. SMRT's new chairman, Mr. Siam Moon Ming, in fact he's here in the public gallery, has publicly stated that his company has zero tolerance for failures in supervision and diligence over maintenance tasks, and will be undertaking a comprehensive audit on maintenance records and practices to uncover any lapses or impropriety. He has also shared that the board will review the remuneration of its senior management from CEO through the relevant chain of command. This is as it should be. I commend the chairman for taking these steps and for emphasizing that it is the responsibility of management to set the right culture of professionalism and excellence. It begins from the top. And if there is poor work culture, the CEO is responsible. You set the corporate culture. At a media conference on October 16, the CEO of SMRT, Desmond Quek, commented on some deep-seated cultural issues within SMRT. In response to a journalist's query, he referred to a recent organizational climate survey done by Towers Watson, which found 9 in 10 SMRT employees proud of and engaged in their work. Of the remaining 1 in 10 employees, he elaborated on the need to strengthen the level of accountability by supervisors and the degree of ownership and open reporting by staff. Let me stress that growing the right culture is the responsibility of everyone, from the top leadership down to the workers. I look to the SMRT management to set the right tone of professionalism and excellence to complement the audit systems that are being put in place. This is our Singapore way. Mr. Speaker, workers and management are jointly responsible for the success of their enterprise. When we speak of culture, we mean the culture of the whole, the values and practices of management, as much as the values and practices of the workers. At a senior level, we set the tone, we formulate, we share, and then we see to it that the culture is as what we have formulated. I am certain of the new SMRT chairman's determination and sincere efforts to transform the culture of SMRT as a whole. He was appointed chairman just barely 3 months ago, but I knew him for many years. With the support of management and workers across the organization, I have faith that he will succeed. Let us help him along, give him the time and space for him to do the transformation. Since the incident, I've received questions about the different roles that LTA has played. For the rail network, LTA has 3 distinct roles: as a regulator, as a developer, and as an asset owner. Although these 3 roles are separate, they are all geared towards achieving our vision for a well-connected, reliable, and efficient rail network. First, as regulator, LTA sets the operating and maintenance performance standards. It then conducts regular audits of the operator's maintenance regime and on-site inspections to ensure that the standards are complied with. To prioritize its resources, LTA adopts a risk-based approach. It focuses most on the most complex areas where failure could have the most severe impact and damage to the rail network and on passenger safety. One example is the signaling system, which is a central nervous system of our rail network, and is made up of countless interconnected subsystems located along the tracks, inside the trains, as well as in the stations, depot, and operations control center. These complex and high-risk systems are where we place the most audit effort and regulatory focus. The anti-flooding systems are considered less risky, much less risky, compared to other core railway systems because the constructs are simple, they are easy to maintain, and they have ample engineering buffers. Nonetheless, during a recent meeting with SMRT on September 29, just a few days before the tunnel flooding incident, LTA had stressed the importance of maintaining tunnel sump pump systems. All these were recorded in minutes of the meeting. SMRT subsequently agreed to review and surface a list of pumps required replacement to LTA. Unfortunately, the incident occurred before this review could be completed. There has been no shortcoming or lapses in oversight by LTA staff in the present regulatory framework. Going forward, I have asked LTA to partner SMRT and to set up a new joint readiness inspection team to supplement SMRT's own internal audit system. At SMRT Chairman Siam Moon Ming's request, ST Kinetics has released Dr. Richard Kwok to head SMRT's augmented audit team. Richard Kwok, who was Executive Vice President and Chief Technology Officer of ST Kinetics, will start work with SMRT next month. His team will report directly to SMRT Board's Audit and Risk Committee. He will also jointly head with LTA the Joint Readiness Inspection Team, which will report to LTA and SMRT Joint Board Technical Committee. The tighter audit system will help to identify any deficiencies so that they can be addressed early before faults occur. However, let's be clear, no regulatory oversight can fully guard against intentional efforts to hide mistakes and negligence, especially if it is by a group. Our operators' efforts to create the right organizational culture of professionalism, excellence, and discipline are therefore important, and they complement the audit systems in place. Second, as a developer, LTA is responsible for ensuring that our transport infrastructure is appropriately designed with the right specification. In developing rail lines, LTA undertakes structured engineering reviews and systems assurance assessments, including the failure mode, effects, and criticality analysis mentioned by Dr. Tan Woo Ming, to ensure reliability and safety. In this case, the design and construction of our MRT infrastructure has incorporated ample flood-resistant specifications and redundancies. These include station entrances which are built at least 1 meter above prevailing flood levels, as well as the provision of ample pump capacity and holding tanks in close consultation with PUB. These specifications are more stringent than those for other building developments. For existing infrastructure, flood barriers have been retrofitted at older MRT station entrances, such as at Tanjung Pagar and Orchard, to protect these underground stations from the risk of flash floods. LTA also works closely with PUB to review the flood protection requirements from time to time, to take into account the impact of climate change and unforeseen weather events on our built-up environment. In fact, climate change and all this occurrence of freak storms worry us. Between Mr. Tan Gi Pao, whom I asked to volunteer to be my advisor on rail reliability, some 4 months ago, wrote me a long email because there were floods, China, Vietnam, India. So he is worried that our specs might not be adequate in this modern time with climate change deteriorations. And that was when he got LTA to start reviewing this one. And we were just in the midst of the review, including looking at existing systems. Unfortunately, this thing happened. Third, when the North-South and East-West lines transitioned to the new rail financing framework in October last year, LTA took over the ownership of all rail operating assets and became an asset owner. And this is the third role. As part of the asset transfer, LTA will assess the conditions of the assets, while Ernst & Young was engaged to perform due diligence on their net book value. Payment to SMRT is contingent on the requirement that the condition of the operating assets should befit their age. This process takes several years to complete. So you can then appreciate the extent of assets that we are taking over and we have to manage and operate. This is not a simple operation. The process takes several years to complete. We are not even halfway there. LTA prioritized the condition assessment of critical or high-value operating assets, such as the trains and signaling system first, with the rest, including the Pishan stormwater sump pumps, slated to commence later this year. Of course, we have a payment schedule. We won't pay until we have assessed and confirmed by Ernst & Young. There is also a fourth and unspoken role for LTA, which I have emphasized since I joined the ministry 2 years ago. That is to cultivate a relationship between LTA and the rail operators founded on trust and constructive collaboration towards a common mission of providing reliable rail transport as an essential public service. I started this because when I took over, of course, I did a lot of visits, above ground, underground, daytime, nighttime. And I was unhappy with the state of adversarial relationship between the regulator and the regulatee. And I told myself, you can't achieve real excellence if this is the way. We may be coming from different entities, but unless you think as one team Singapore, there's no way you can achieve real excellence. Because with that kind of toxic relationship, every time any incident appeared, it is finger pointing. Not my fault, it's your fault. And he or she said, not my fault, it's your fault. There's no way we can solve this problem. I'm used to running hospitals, and we knew that I don't care where do you come from, who is your employer, where you get your salary from. When a problem crops up that affects our patient, our customers, let's solve the problem first. Look at it from the customer point of view, get to the root of the problem, and then we settle later, who is culpable, who is this, who should pay for this, who should pay for that. But service recovery, and more importantly, learn from the lesson so that we can prevent future occurrence. That is the sort of work relationship which I'm familiar with, which I think is the only way to achieve any kind of excellence. So this fourth and unspoken role is to cultivate this relationship between LTA and the rail operators founded on trust and constructive collaboration towards a common mission of providing a reliable rail transport. This is especially important now when our two oldest MRT lines are undergoing major renewals. There needs to be a relationship of trust at all levels so that information and ideas are openly, candidly, and freely shared and exchanged. In fact, this helps LTA perform its role as a regulator more effectively, as its investigation into any disruption must always be fair-minded and thorough, having considered all factors like the age of the assets, the effect of weather, design, and other extenuating circumstances. Penalties will be imposed if they are warranted, but at the same time, they must be calibrated reasonably to ensure fairness and accountability. Such a regulatory relationship engenders both respect and trust and is critical in our journey towards higher rail reliability. I've done a lot in the last 2 years. I've aged 5 years along the way. I'd like to believe that one of my biggest achievements so far in the last 2 years is building this one team. It is now very different from 2 years ago. Looking beyond the North-South Line flooding incident, we remain focused on our larger mission to raise train reliability and to meet the high standard demanded by our commuters. This is a multi-year effort involving many critical elements, including replacing aging assets, investing in engineering skills and manpower, as well as exploiting technology for more effective maintenance. In the past 2 years, we have strengthened scheduled maintenance based on the criticality, usage, and age of the systems. We have also begun to go beyond preventive maintenance to predictive maintenance. Working with LTA, the rail operators will be using real-time condition monitoring and data analytics to track maintenance logs, detect and rectify potential faults before they occur. This is the next major leap in our efforts to improve rail reliability. As I've told this House before, our maintenance ramp up in the last 2 years is producing results. The metric for measuring train reliability internationally is the MKBF, mean kilometers between failure of more than 5 minutes. For our MRT network, it has improved significantly from 133,000 train kilometers in 2015, that's just 2 years ago, to now 425,000 train kilometers this year, 133K to 425K. For years, it could not even reach 100K, 100,000 train kilometers. We were struggling, 5 digits, can't even exceed 60, can't even achieve 6 digits. And that was just not too long ago. That's how far we have come in the 2 years. The improvement is real and significant, and is experienced by all the 5 MRT lines, including the oldest north-south, east-west lines. But I know commuters, especially those using north-south line regularly, do not feel so. The MKBF improvements are not what they felt they had experienced, and I understand why. Because we do have problems with the changing of the signaling system. In other words, we are, as I explained in this hour, we are doing 2 major assignments. 1, improve the rail reliability of existing systems. 2, we are doing projects, and re-signaling of north-south and next year east-west line is a very major project, which with its own attendant problems, which I've discussed in this House many months ago. All metros hate changing signaling system because in this modern day of social media, you get flame because problems are bound to crop up. And that's why we pay particular attention to make sure that when we do re-signaling, we test and test and test again without passengers. That means during the early hours of the day, so that the bugs can all be identified and debugged, and new software patches put in before we launch passenger service. And if you compare it with the experience of London Underground, our re-signaling, we are doing very well. Although, as I said, commuters do not understand this. All they know is every few days, there's some delays here and there. So when I said we are doing well for re-signaling, I have in mind is versus the reference of all the other metros doing re-signaling. So back to north-south line, because we do have problems with the change of the signaling system, commuters cannot relate with this so-called, from their point of view, improved MKBF and their actual real-life experience. And other disruptions, both in the past and now the flooding on October 7, have made commuters lose faith. I can understand that. Actually, the problems are being resolved one by one. Not too long ago, you may remember, we had people jumping from platforms. We put a stop to that with platform screens. We used to have all kinds of third rail problems. Now, no more, because we changed it out. We had lots of sleeper-related problems. Now, much, much less, as we have also changed it out. The signaling system has to be changed, and we have turned the corner for the north-south line. The same is with flooding. It will not recur. And as we keep going in this direction, there will be a major improvement in experience in the near future. I can only seek commuters' patience and understanding. This is not an easy task. If it was so easy, it would have been fixed years ago. I don't have to be an MOT. Yeah. To sustain the progress we are making, asset renewal works on our oldest lines must be completed as soon as possible. In the short term, this may cause disruption to commuters, such as during the implementation of resignaling. When these asset renewal works are progressively completed and as new rail lines open, they will translate into significant improvements in the resilience of our rail network and commuter experience. Our aim to cross an MKBF of 1 million train kilometer by 2020 is within our grasp. This is despite many challenges, a major one being the limited engineering hours available to us to do so many things each day. Rail operators, and especially SMRT, have to perform both scheduled and corrective maintenance work, but also the implementation of numerous asset renewal works, such as resignaling within the few hours every night when trains are not running. The punishing schedule takes its toll on the workers and forces operators to prioritize between many urgent and important tasks. So far, we have only been able to shorten train operating hours marginally, for example, on some Sundays, to provide more time for the operators to do their job. In September this year, I shared with this House on our urgent plans to renew the 6 core components of the north-south, east-west lines. I hope you still remember which are the 6. These are sleepers, third rail signaling system, power supply, track circuits, and the old trains, first-generation trains. We are about halfway through this multi-year journey with our final destination, 2024. I won't be in this House. Metros elsewhere have the option to close down an entire line for a substantial period. We don't. Closing a major line like north-south, east-west lines to expedite these renewal works will certainly help us get to our destination sooner. Until all these key aging systems are replaced or renewed, north-south, east-west lines remain at risk of major disruptions, even with diligent maintenance. We just got to do it as quickly as we can. It's a little bit weird, like my cardiologist when he advised me almost 8 years ago, and he tested my calcium score and it ran out of the range of optimal range and told me, I think you have serious problems. You better do a bypass. I was in denial. And I said, nah, I live such a disciplined life. How could it happen to me? You know? And he said, no, until you fix this one, you're at risk of any time falling dead. You know? Where was I? We need to speed up the renewal of aging assets, yeah. The limited engineering hours is a significant obstacle to achieving this. I have asked LTA to work with SMRT to see how we can squeeze out more engineering hours for the team. For the re-sleepering project, remember, we shortened operating hours on Sundays, but only marginally. But it was a great help. Given the scale of outstanding asset replacement programs, we will need many more extended engineering hours, perhaps even on weekdays. So I'm serving notice. Line closures will, of course, inconvenience commuters. I seek commuters' understanding and patience should we decide to do so. We are likely to do so. I hope to get members' support for such a program, especially residents living in the north, like Engineer Lee Bihua and myself. In summary, the October 7 incident should not have happened. The SMRT team responsible for maintaining the Pishan stormwater sump pit and neglected their duties, falsified records, and failed us. SMRT management has accepted full responsibility over this sad episode. The entire leadership is up there in the public gallery. We have worked hard to improve train reliability, and we have made significant progress. That's why I got upset when people make generalizations that things had gotten worse. It is not. It is not. Things have gotten worse because you think it has gotten worse because of the resignaling project, the new projects. If we are not doing any of those new projects, the improvement would have been visible and palpable. I have interacted with many SMRT staff working on the signaling system, power, trains, and track maintenance. They are committed to the goal. They are determined to regain the trust and confidence of our commuters. I know they are just as upset as me that some of their colleagues in charge of maintaining the tunnel portal sump pits have failed us and pushed us back in this multi-year journey. I share their disappointment and also embarrassment deeply. You know, I've invested so much in this assignment. But we are determined to get back on our feet, back to our work, and soldier on. I'm confident that the new SMRT chairman, Siam Moon Min, will be able to turn around the company, and that we can catch up with the best metros in the world in terms of service reliability. We can do that. We are Singaporeans. The heavy lifting has to be done by SMRT, but they will not be alone. The resources of LTA, MOT will be there to support them. That's why my PERMSEC is here too, as well as CEO of LTA. I handpicked the CEO of LTA. I asked around and I persuaded PSD to post him to me when Chu Meng Leong, his predecessor, decided to leave for personal reasons. And he's fully committed to this cause. So I think the planets are now very well aligned. You have me in MOT, LTA, PERMSEC, and Chairman Siam Moon Min. Other agencies, especially PUB, DSTA, DSO, and GovTech, have offered their expertise to help us in this journey. I'm grateful for their assistance. This gives me the confidence that we can complete this job of raising train reliability. I have not changed my target of achieving an MKBF of 1 million train kilometer by 2020. We just have to lean in, redouble our efforts, and work smarter. Thank you.